Hi, and welcome to the Shai Show. This week's Parsha is Parshas Toldos. In this week's Parsha, our Zeidy Yitzchak Avinu, our next Zeidy. Last week we spoke about Zeidy Avram. This week, our main focus is about our Zeidy Yitzchak Avinu. In this week's Parsha, the Yitzchak Avinu attempts to give a bracha to both Yaakov and Esav, his two sons. And Yaakov, in the end of the day, purchases the right of being the firstborn and receiving the blessing and all that Yitzchak wanted to pass down. There's a lot of questions to ask about it. The question I wanted to focus in on, what mattered to me, what I thought was one of the many points that was very interesting from this interesting parsha that stood out to me is the day that Yitzchak is going to give the bracha to Esav, the blessing to Esav. Esav is instructed to get him the meal that he loves. And not only the meal that he loves, it's understood that this is going to be two whole animals. Two whole gigantic beasts. So my question is that when Yitzchak Avinu, who's this holy, saintly, brilliant, completely spiritually in touch founder of our tradition, one of the founders, how is it, how hungry was he? I mean, at the end of the day, how hungry do you have to be to eat two whole animals? So maybe it can be explained with a story from the Talmud. There was once a princess.
Hey, wait, is this story about me?
No, not you. And this princess, she was married to a wealthy man, but a very simple wealthy man. And early into the marriage, that the wealthy man saw that she wasn't very happy. So he figures, what am I going to do? I'm going to set up a whole banquet. And he creates this whole large, incredible, magnanimous banquet with treats from everywhere, flies in the French chefs that create the tastiest and best pastries and pastry. And she's refined, so she gives a bit of a smile, but he sees that she's not happy. So what does he do? He figures, I know, I'll get her a new wardrobe. So he goes out and he gets her a Prada dress and Weitzman boots and all the best of things. And she's refined again, so she smiles and she thanks him, but he can tell that she's not happy. So he figures, what am I going to do? What can I do for her? So I know what I'll do. It's the house. I'll remodel the house. So he remodels the house and creates like the finest bathroom with like a Italian-made tile, and gets her a new kitchen with Viking stoves, with Shabbos mode. And she's refined again, smiles, not happy. So he asks her, what is it that's bothering you? What is it that's going on? So a side question, why did he wait to now? And how much money could he have saved had he asked her earlier? Nonetheless, he asked her now, and she explains that she's a princess. And she starts explaining what life was like in the palace, with the musicians and the poets and the composers and the artisans. And like a good husband, he's smiling and nodding, but still not understanding a thing.
Smart man, smart man.
And the curtain came down. End of story. So this is a Talmudic story, and what is it that we're trying to learn from this, and what is it that our sages are trying to teach us? So it seems as though that we have a tradition that in these kind of stories that the husband typically represents the body and the wife typically represents the soul. And the soul and body are married. It's not that it's something extra, some sort of interaction. Let's say that the way one might think that the soul animates the body in the sense the way electricity animates a machine. This is more of not something flowing through something, rather it's a compound, it's something united, not physically separable, let's say the way a mixture would be. So the story is also telling us about this relationship, that a person could feel a lacking, a longing, and they could go out and they think they're going to get into food, whether it's gourmet food or whether it's health food, and they think if I eat right, I'm going to feel right. Now, it's definitely a good and important mitzvah to stay healthy and stay well and to eat right. But I'm talking about when it's an end unto itself. And in that case, where the person thinks, okay, if I start eating right, I'm naturally going to feel better because I'm eating right, and that's the whole story. And of course, after they're eating right for a while, they're still with themselves, and they probably are feeling at least something a little better because they're more healthy, but it's lacking, and overall, it turns up relatively empty to what they're searching for. So maybe the person thinks, what it is, that I need to change my style, so I'll go out and get a new wardrobe, and I'm gonna try really hard to look good, or I'm gonna try, or maybe the style is trying really hard not to look good, whatever's in. And after a bit of this, typically, although new clothes can feel good, and I think it's important to dress respectfully, with respect towards oneself, and also possibly a mitzvah. But the idea, again, end unto itself of just dressing, it's typically come up empty. Maybe a person thinks, if I get a different house, or they move, or they go to a different city, or they change spouses, because basically, if a person's going through life viewing that things are basically that things please him, or he's trying to get happy from other things, to take the life out of other things, then this person tends to be very disappointed. And at the same time, maybe it's theoretically possible that a person can live their whole life pursuing all these different avenues, keep coming up empty, and possibly still wondering why. So after this happens, maybe the person ends up in the shrink, and he's saying, "What's the matter with me? Why aren't I happy?" So comes the Talmud to say, you don't need a shrink. This is the perfectly expected and natural reaction when interacting with this world in and of itself. The princess is calling out, and if a person tries to answer when the princess calls out with physical needs, the princess is still not going to be happy. Being that and this confusion is also pretty natural, because as we were saying before, that the soul is combined with the body. So if the soul is properly combined with the body, we're not always sure what's actually calling out to us, because sometimes it really is just a physical need that's being expressed, and on some level and in some kosher way can and should be met. But nonetheless, it's a matter of recognizing what's calling out, and understanding that the soul's not going to be satisfied unless we give it a little bit of heaven. And we see that the soul is, in fact, as we were saying, is bound to the body. But if the soul only wants spiritual pleasure, why is it bound to the body? Is it so that the soul should come down to this world in the body in some sort of altruistic relationship, or really that all it wants is spiritual pleasure, but never, unfortunately, has to be combined with the body, and completely allow itself to become a shmata, and just and never really enjoy. That's not a marriage. If somebody completely just is mabatal to the other one's will, this is not a marriage. This is about a relationship about coming together and working together towards a common goal. And by working towards a common goal, then there can be happiness. What is this common goal? This common goal seems to be that everyone really wants to be uplifted, important, holy, and connected into a loving relationship with Hashem. And paradoxically, through other sources, that when the soul is coming down, it's not altruistic. It's on a mission to bring out the spirituality that's contained within the body. Meaning that there is even though we say that the soul is the essence of spiritual substance, we also understand that anything only has a sense of physicality and can exist if in of itself, even in a physical form, has a certain type of spiritual sustenance. And the soul is coming down into this world in order to interact with the body to bring out the spirituality that's contained within that physicality. That's from a little bit of a separate shmuz, but the sources are clear. And another potential misunderstanding that could come out of that is that a person might think that really we're here just to get a place in heaven, that earth serves heaven, that this and this world is only on a place to get to heaven. For those as a parenthetic note, let's not confuse heaven with Olam Haba, separate shmuz. So nonetheless, it's not that this world is here to serve heaven. It's just the opposite. It's that heaven is here to serve earth. Stay with me. So it's not that the soul comes down here and it's going to resist all temptation, and that's the goal, is to be some sort of ascetic and remove oneself from life and existence and enjoyment and pleasure and interaction. It's just the opposite. The soul's purpose of coming down to this world is to take those very acts and to do them with a purpose and with a thought and with intention that causes them not only a permanence and an eternal importance, but it gives them real value and meaning towards eternity. A good marriage is like you were saying, it's about working together towards a common goal, not independent. And that physicality should be met with, dealt with, done together with the soul. Not like, okay, now just, the body goes, together with the soul, meaning like this matters, this is important, this act, even if it's of eating, of enjoying food, which is coming back to what we're saying before, meaning that here Yitzchak Avinu wanted this meal, and he understood that Esav's role had to primarily do with interacting with the physical world, and he was that hungry. He understood in its fullest and greatest amount, in its full force, two whole animals, and what two represents, two whole animals, and this act of eating it becomes the very source of blessing. Where did that leave us? So, by us, we can understand that by us too, that we can also be plugged in to this eternity, this value, and this sense of the greater good through a meal. If it's kosher and we said the blessing before, we thank God before, and say the grace after, meals after, and thank God after, and hopefully have the intent that with the energy that we're going to take, we're going to do more good things, and in the moment to be enjoying the food and recognize that the world is intrinsically good. The idea that eating is not just an act that doesn't have taste, the fact that it has taste and that it's meant to be pleasurable, meaning even the work, if we stop to focus and to eat and enjoy the food, we can connect to it. So we spoke before about Yaakov Avinu, how he had to buy the birthright from Esav, even in Esav's work was to be primarily with the physical world. So how do we understand it? Because in the beginning, it seems that it sounded like a little bit of a deception, but that's the way it begins. You can't, the body who, the husband who is just smiling and nodding and not really understanding, you can't right away be told about all the pure spiritual pleasures, and because he's not spiritually sensitive yet. He didn't grow up in the palace like the soul did, the palace of the king of kings. So it's starting off to understand that Shabbos, it's nice to be with family, that it's quiet, a candlelit dinner with the wife every week, the things that are very good for the home, things that are very good for a sense of social structure, something that what the body's going to connect into. So calling it deception is strong, but meaning it's to come straight out. There's nothing. It's not like it's on a common language. So you start off in the common language where the soul's enjoying because it understands there's a greater sense of what's going on during Shabbos, and the body's understanding because it likes the extra rest and the tastier food. So what can we do? So I'm suggesting something that I appreciate, something that makes a difference to me, and that's when we're having the tasty challah bread on Shabbos tonight, that when we eat it, when we eat the first kazayas, when we have the first piece, to not talk and to really focus on how good the challah is, especially Helena's challah. So how really good it is, and to take it in. There's plenty of, actually, for those interested, there's plenty of halakha sources that say for the first kazayas, the first piece, you're not to talk anyway. And I'm suggesting that Chazal also had in mind not just the coherence of eating it together, because we were meant to really focus on the goodness of flavor and the kindness that we have bread to eat, and how good that can be, and taking this moment out just to sense and be in tune with the goodness and kindness in a piece of bread. And a piece of delicious challah, right? So, and by doing this, and by contemplating the eternal purpose, by connecting within this way with the eternal purpose and understanding eternalities, that in itself is part of the eternal plan. So by contemplating the eternal, by eating this piece of bread and enjoying it, we're also making this act of eating this piece of bread an eternally good act with butterfly effects and ripple effects and lots of effects. So I know it's going to be a good Shabbos. Please, I hope everyone enjoys their challah. It's going to be a great Shabbos. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the space below. Please also hit the subscribe button so you can know through your email, know when the next video is coming out. I look forward to seeing you next week. And please enjoy your challah.